Hello and welcome into the Women in Business Radio Show studio.
Welcome to the Women in Business Radio Show with Sian Murphy, connecting women in business around the globe.
So who have we got in the studio with us? I nearly made it on air without laughing. I have no idea what I'm laughing about. We haven't done anything funny yet. My co-host today, let me introduce her, is Jemma Fairclough Haynes. Welcome to the studio.
Hello.
Lovely to have you back as a co-host.
Thank you. It's always a joy. It's always a joy to be here.
It's quite good fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
And also, Jemma is one of our speakers at the Women in Business Big Show. She's going to be talking about taking your first steps to building your support team, because Jemma is an HR lawyer. She's an HR specialist, and we're talking about some of the things that you need to consider when you're going from just being doing your own thing, to actually bringing on, support. It could be staff, it could be freelancers, couldn't it?
Anybody to help you, really, because we all need, no man's an island, as they say, or no woman's an island, since it's the Woman in Business big show.
It doesn't really matter. All the edges are blurred now, aren't they? So our special guest in the studio today is one half of Amanda and Kathy, Conscious Living Coaches. We've got Amanda Armour in the studio. Kathy Hayman, we're going to say hello to Kathy. Kathy, unfortunately, is not very well. So, sorry you're not here, Kathy, but we are going to be getting the two of you back into the studio later on in the year. And Amanda and Kathy are also speakers at the Women in Business Big Show. And you're going to be talking about, I actually wrote this down. I can't believe I wrote this down. It's change your story to change your business. We're having a bit of trouble, aren't we, with remembering stuff at the moment?
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. I apparently am not the only one who's having trouble remembering stuff. Names, my name, somebody else's name, doesn't really matter. So I don't know if there's some strange energies going on. We may be able to discuss that in the second show today. Our other guest in the studio is Lorraine Crooks, and Lorraine may well be dipping in and out of the conversation. So Lorraine Crooks is a sexual empowerment liberator and founder of Orgasmic Life. But we're going to be remaining quite calm, I'll have you know. Who also in the studio, and we're just going to turn her microphone up so that she can just say hello. We have Talia with us. Say hello. Say hi, Talia.
Hi, everyone.
Talia, welcome into the studio. Talia is joining us as work experience with you, Jemma, isn't she?
She is, yes. This is your last day, isn't it? Because we work from home on a Friday, so... Yeah. She get 4 days of work experience. How's it been so far? Remember the bribery? How has it been? How has it been?
Would this be workplace bullying? I'm not sure.
No. You have to find someone better than me to represent you for that.
So, welcome into the studio, Talia. It's lovely to have you with us. I wouldn't want you to think that this is what we do all day as business women, because we don't. We go out for lunch.
I was at a vineyard last week. It's a hard life.
I'll tell you what, then we have lunch, and then round about 3 or 4 o'clock, wine o'clock comes round again. So we're off for that. So no, we really work hard, don't we? We really do. We really do. Welcome into the studio, Talia.
Thank you.
Okay, now I'm just shuffling around here because I can't actually see what I'm doing. Oh, announcements. So we have the Women in Business Big Show 2023, which is at Longfield Academy on August the 10th. So that's Longfield Academy in Kent. And I think today in the studio, nearly everybody in here is actually involved in it, aren't they? So
yes.
Yep. Yes. We're either speakers, exhibitors. So it's going to be really, really good fun. We've got loads of networking going on there. We've got organised networking this time. So please do come along. It's free for visitors. We would prefer you to register register before the day. And if you do register before the day, you get to put your business card on our business card table or wall, and you get entered into a free draw to win one of free stands for the 2024 show, which is on the 8th of August. I remembered that. Look.
Well done.
So if you visit the Women in Business Big Show.com, you'll find out everything that you need to know there.
What time does it start, Sean?
It starts for visitors. It starts at 9 a.m. So it's 9 a.m. until 4, and we've got loads of really exciting, interesting, but also sort of down-to-earth speakers. So all of our speakers they're not all women actually, we do have men speaking as well, but they're people who sort of walk the walk in their business, and they're speaking about what they do, which is, and how they can help people. And all of the talks give really good information, which you can take away and you can use to either start or grow your business, which I think is quite different to professional speakers, people who sometimes they're professional speakers, they decide what's going to be the hot topic for that year, and that's what they're going to talk about. All of our guys know exactly what they're talking about. It's their business. They just happen to be able to speak about it. And I like that.
Yeah.
So, if I could read my note, I have got notes. You see, this is the problem, is when you start relying on notes. So, I think what we're going to do now, because I can't think of any more housekeeping, is we're going to introduce Amanda properly, and we're going to get her to tell us a little bit about her story. So tell us what you do, how you do it, and how you got there. So welcome Amanda into the studio.
Hello. Good afternoon. Good morning or good
afternoon. We're still. It doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter. It's fine.
It's fine. Hello. What? So you want me to just?
Yeah, just tell us how did you get to doing what you're doing now?
Wow. Via rather many routes. So I probably started as a teenager as a florist, and then a registrar marrying people. And then an image consultant and a boutique. Then marriage started going wrong, and decided I needed a bit more inspiration and positive mindset, and learning more about how we tick and what makes us tick. So trained to be a coach well over 15 odd years ago, I think, now. And then tried all sorts of different coaching, because they say, find your niche. Which I found many. And then I met with Kathy. Actually, before that, COVID happened, and I was an image consultant still then, as well as coaching.
What's an image consultant for people who might not have?
Stylist.
Yeah.
So someone who, I used to go into people's bedrooms.
I knew there was going to be a theme.
I think there might be. I used to go into people's bedrooms, as well as, obviously not when I had the boutique, but when I was on my own, actually, one-on-one, I call it coaching, but it was also coaching people, women particularly, but also men, on what colours suit them best, how to wear certain styles, how to dress for their body shape, that sort of thing. That's what an image consultant basically does. But we also do have an element of coaching, because there are a lot of people that aren't confident in the way that they look, or they feel that they're dressing not to the best of their ability. So I would help people with that.
So why were you going into their bedrooms exactly?
To look at their wardrobes, in their wardrobes.
Oh, I see. Okay, right, now I understand.
Yeah. So I would help them, show them how to utilise their clothing as well. So not just throw everything out, because a lot of people think that an image consultant comes in and says, well, you're dressing not the way you should be. You need to do this, you need to do that. My way, and a lot of image consultants are more interested in the person behind the clothes or underneath the clothes, and then working with that person and understanding what sort of image they want to portray.
So what I should have done beforehand, and if I could read my own writing, I would have done this, is said what it is we're actually going to be talking about today, because we're going to be talking about creating an app to support your business, because that's what you and Kathy have actually been doing. And so we're going to go through some of the ups and downs, and why you decided to do that, and how it's going, and the processes that you've gone through. But before we get to that point, your business is basically your conscious living coaches. So what does that mean? What do you mean by conscious living?
Conscious living means being aware, ultimately. Being aware of, learning to be aware. So many of us are on autopilot a lot of the time.
It's such a difficult thing as well, isn't it? Because until such time as you realise you're on autopilot, it doesn't matter what anybody says, you don't realise that you are.
Totally.
So in effect, there's almost nothing that you can do about it, is there? I think for me, understanding it was when I realised I had a voice in my head, that I was having a conversation with myself, that there was this other thing there that was actually having a conversation. And when I became aware of that, that was when I realised there was something else going on, and I needed to sort of, I won't say get control of it, but I needed to get control of it. And that's when I became aware of being conscious and unconscious.
Yeah.
Which is not, I can do unconscious as well. That line on the floor, that line on the floor, sort of dribbling thing. But that's not what we're talking about. But until you've reached that point, it's really, really difficult to explain it to somebody, isn't it? Really hard.
Yeah, that's why I think most people understand autopilot. Most people understand if they're driving.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get in the car and you just drive. And then you're at your destination, and you sometimes even don't know how you got there. That's not the best way to live or be for safety reasons in a car, but also for our own lives. If we aren't aware, subconscious, a lot of the thinking, our thoughts, can be from subconscious beliefs. Once we're aware of those subconscious beliefs, then we can start to be more conscious and understand where they're coming from. So a lot of the work that we do is helping people to know what makes them tick, how they work, what they think, and to be really aware of the self-talk, because how we speak to ourselves, we would never speak to anybody else like that.
Well, most of us wouldn't.
Don't look at me like that.
Just saying. Most people don't.
Most people
wouldn't speak to anybody else like that, but yes. Do you think, so I'm thinking, the whole autopilot and the unconscious or subconscious living, that starts really quite young, doesn't it? Because we're quite often just herded into, you're going to do this and then you're going to do that. So it must be really difficult when you've done something your whole life to unlearn that.
That's why, well, I suppose that's part of the reason why we created the app, but also why we went down the road of conscious living, is because when both Kathy and I have been coaches for a long time, and we can see the way that we've learned how people think in certain ways, and how conditioning from childhood has an effect. But we also have a process that both of us have developed that help people because we hold a lot of that energy in our bodies as well as our minds. And when we're sometimes in a space that we don't want to talk about it because it's too painful, or we're in autopilot and we're not even aware that we're holding on to these traumas or thoughts, we then have this process that allows you to be in your body and release it in your body and then your mind.
It's a real sort of like slap your forehead time, isn't it, when you realise what's going on underneath and the stories that you're telling yourself that you're not even aware of. And I know that's your topic at the Women in Business Big Show is, change your story to change your business. But now I'm aware of so many people who have a story around poverty or not having enough money, and they're always saying that, I haven't got enough money for that, or I can't do that because I haven't got enough money, or and even if they're not saying this out loud, it's constantly there in the background, and guess what? They haven't got enough money.
Absolutely. And lack is we're almost taught that too. We're sort of from childhood, there's how you speak to your child. We may say, well, no, you can't have that because we can't afford it. It's all of these things that just are constantly telling ourselves these things. Once we are aware of that, then we're able to move to the next level, which is looking at perspective, looking at things differently, and then changing, being able to change that perspective, and of course take the action that you need to actually make those changes.
So when you take your clients on, are they already at that point where they have become aware that there is this internal dialogue going on, that they're telling themselves stuff, that they may be holding arguments, that they may be conducting conversations in their head, or that they may have what we could call limiting beliefs? Or are they presenting themselves to you with a, this isn't working, and actually having no idea of anything going on underneath that may be influencing them, may be influencing their surface results?
I would say the latter. I think a lot of people know that they're not living their best life. They know that they're not fulfilling their full potential. And so but they're stuck, or they're overwhelmed, and they don't know how to do that. So they come to us in that mindset, and then we explore with them and help them to find out who they are and what they want, and then see it from that perspective, rather than the perspective of, I'm stuck, I'm overwhelmed, what can I do? I'll never get out of that, I'll never reach my full potential. That never word. And I should be doing those. They're the two, never and should. And then, is it true? That's the other one. Ask yourself, when you're going through all of those things, is it true? Most of the time it's not.
It must be very frustrating. Sorry, what were you going to say?
It was something else. I was going to say, I happened to notice, I don't know this, it's because I've got notes in front of me, not because I'm superpowers or anything, that you're an NLP practitioner as well. And I wondered, well, number one, what NLP is, and two, whether that's included in the app.
Okay, well, everything that we do is probably to do with that, the process of NLP, neuro-linguistic processing, which really is it's the study of success. The thought processes are, so how are people successful? How are people getting the best out of themselves, and then transitioning from not being in that space to being in that space? And the processes that we use incorporate all of that, if that makes sense.
It's I know a little bit about NLP. And one of the things that so if ever you're sat with me and I'm working with you, just beware of this. I can tell when you're lying. Okay, that's the first thing.
Human lie detector. Very handy. Very handy. And the second thing is, and it's so simple, when you say this, it is so simple that you think, well, it's really obvious. Now it is, but if somebody says, so if I'm working with somebody and they go, yes, I'm going to try and do that, I just know it's not going to happen. They haven't said they're going to.
No, I'm going to try and do it. That, to me, is like the biggest red flag ever. And it's it's probably the simplest intro into NLP and neuro-linguistic programming, to start becoming aware of the fact that people are saying something and what's actually coming out of their mouth is sort of a reflection of what's going to happen. Because before I did NLP and somebody said, yes, I'm going to try and get that done, I just sort of assumed that they were going to try and get it done. Well, they may well do, but it ain't going to happen. I know it will not be done.
Do you want them to say with absolute certainty, I'll do that?
Yes, yeah. It sounds horrible, but it's really just an indicator of where somebody is and where somebody is and where they're coming from and what's going to happen. And if somebody says that, I know that there is something holding them back from doing it, or they feel, and it could be anything. It could be they think they haven't got the time. It could be that they actually don't want to do it. It could be that they don't want to say no, and so they come up with this, I'm going to try and do it. But one way or the other, it is not going to happen.
Yeah, that's where self-talk, it's that language that we use. It's so important to actually be aware of the language that you use. Once you are, and so many people aren't aware of of the language that they use when they talk to others, but also when they talk within their own mind.
It does. It makes such an impact. I remember my son when he was quite young. Something had happened to him, and he was bouncing off the walls, saying he was livid. I'm so angry. I'm absolutely furious, and this was going on like for days. And he, 3 days later, he's still bouncing off the walls and talking about how angry he is. And I sort of sat him down, and I said, "Look, should we just try and change this a bit? Just say you're miffed." I said, just say you're miffed. And after a bit of saying, actually, I'm really miffed, he just smiled and he had a little laugh, because it's very difficult to be absolutely furious and jumping up and down about something when you're saying, I'm miffed. And I think, sometimes we're just not aware of the words that we're saying. When we say something like, I'm devastated, or this has destroyed me. How do you come back from something that's destroyed you? And just become aware of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why, again, pulling back to the app. Both Kathy and I love one-to-one coaching. However, we feel that the world needs to know how to. I mean, we use the word unlock your freedom with the Conscious Living app, because when you do understand the language that you use, when you are self-aware, which is a gift to us as humans, we are living creatures that are self-aware, not other creatures aren't.
Let's go back to a little bit sort of about the beginning of the app. And we're going to talk about some of the trials and tribulations. I'm sure there were some, the ups and downs of getting this app developed. And I know you didn't sit there and do the programming yourself, did you? That's not what you do. No. So at what point did you decide, actually, the way to go on this is an app?
Because we wanted to go from one to many.
Okay.
And we wanted it to be affordable, because coaching one-to-one is an investment, and it's a good investment in yourself. However, we also wanted people that weren't able or prepared to already to use that investment in themselves, but they can still have access to something that will help their well-being and their personal development.
Did you do any research beforehand to see how it was going to be received, or whether there was actually a market for it? Or do you do what I do and go, that's a good idea, I think, hang on, I'll just chat to a couple of people, let me ring this bloke who can make one of those for me, hang on. so
a bit of both. Kathy and I talked about what we wanted to do, and we were actually, what we do, we go down to the beach. So when we're trying to sort of develop our business, we would go down to Tankerton Beach, which is really lovely, and we'd walk along the beach, come rain or shine, and we are lucky that we're able to express ourselves in that way, and we are able to, and that's what came, the app.
Okay.
And then from there, we then did the research. We talked to a lot of people. It's all in the business plan, but once it gets put somewhere, my brain moves on to something else. So I can't give you all the figures that we've got in the business plan.
No. Sorry, that would be really dull.
Good.
we don't want any real facts.
But it's just like if someone is thinking, I'd like to do an app. What's the first step? What do you do? Do you need the content first? Do you need to find an app developer, if that's what they're called? Is that what they're called? I don't know what they're called.
Yeah, it's a journey, Jemma, if I'm honest. We went through, we researched how to find an app. Then we looked for somebody to help us to do it. Then we looked at whether we would do white label, because there are a lot of white label app type. And then we realised that for what we wanted, a white label wasn't where we needed to be.
I think if we just explain very quickly what a white label would be, this is my understanding, and perhaps you can confirm that, it is that there is already an app that is basically developed. But by having it white labelled, what the developer can do is make that system, the app, the functionality in it, available to lots and lots of different people who then put their own logos, their own colours, their own names and everything inside that.
Yeah.
But basically, you have to have what the developer has created, something that is a bit like a one-size-fits-all. A really good starting point, but that's what it is. And you have to fit your content, your delivery, and how you're going to use it and work with your clients into what they've created for you.
Basically a template.
Yeah. So you decided not to go down that route.
Yeah.
You decided that what you wanted to do was to actually have yours created bespoke.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Absolutely. And the joys of that are immense.
Oh, okay.
In that you're working with somebody who has to, you both have to, well, all of us, because it's not just one person, you have to be really sure of what the message that you're wanting to go out, and also the branding and the image. Everything has to be.
So did your developer help you with that, or was it a case of you're having techie conversations over here and your branding, content, marketing type conversations are happening in a different space? Or did you find somebody who can actually help with the whole thing?
We're working with another company that are like our team in that sense. And so the marketing and the techie stuff all goes into one.
But that's a really important distinction, isn't it? Is that you may find somebody who's really techie, who may be able to build something to a specification that you come up with, but that can be very, very different to actually working with the branding, the imagery, and some of the way that those functions will work and interact with the clients who are going to be using it. So would you say sort of understanding that those are two really different skill sets and making sure that which one you're buying, which one you're actually getting, and don't expect the techie person to be up on design and deliverability and marketing.
It's a bonus if they are. But it's also really important to have that time and communication to express how you want the app to look. We had a specific image in our heads, if you like, and then he would say, well, you can do this, but you can't do that. And then it's a process, and it is a very interesting process, and you have to be consciously aware of that as well. And that's where conscious living, where it really comes into its own, because you're working to some deadlines, because it's your business, you want it to come out and to promote it and all of those sorts of things. But if you hit a tech spot that can't do when we want it to, which has happened many times, is not getting bogged down with, oh my goodness, what are we going to do now? Conscious living is about looking at something and then taking a different perspective if it's not, but without this angst or anger. So it's about being as calm and honest with yourself, but enabling that freedom of communication without. So I have 5 pillars that I really talk to my clients about, and we will talk about in the app, which are no judgment, no shame, no blame, no guilt, and no justification. And when you're in that space and you're working with people in that mindset too, because obviously they're learning as how we work, you don't need those. I don't know if you've had it where somebody phones you up and says, I really don't want to have this conversation with you, but this isn't working or that's not working. Whereas with us, there isn't a need to be worrying about, I don't want to have this conversation, because we're open to whatever happens for a reason. So you don't have that angst and anxiety and stress of working with somebody, because the communication is open and conscious. It frees you up. It really does. I love it. And
then I imagine, well, they're not having that conversation at all if they've got the app, or do they have the app and speak to you, or is it just the app?
Once people, the membership of the
Yes.
app. The membership of the app is an app that will provide them with their coach in their pocket based on daily affirmations, weekly challenges, which we set them verbally, but they also, it's video content, if you like, so they get to see us, but they don't get to it's not one-to-one communication. It is what an app does, which is give you all the information that you need, including meditations, visualizations, monthly themes. So one of the first themes is about stories, because that's one of the most important things that we need to understand, is that we tell ourselves stories that are quite often not true.
So on the app, did you make a decision as to whether it was going to be for engagement or publication? So publication is sort of a one-way thing, isn't it? So you create, and this looks like an amazing array of content here. You know, you've just said you've got your short meditations, podcasts, coaching videos, an online journal, progress trackers, daily affirmations. So that potentially is content that's going one way from you to the people who are in your app and receiving it. Is there an opportunity for them to come back and say something or ask a question, or is it like a magazine where the information comes out and they digest it? So does that make sense? Can people message each other? Can they message you? Or have you decided that actually that sounds like a way too much, actually?
It's our intention, that was our intention, to have a community, so that it would be that people can, like forums, to be able to have that. We've yet to find tech that can help us with that at the moment. So for us, it's important to get the first stage. There are stages with anything that you develop with business. There are different stages. So this is the first stage of our app, which brings everything that we want within it. There will obviously be opportunities for one-to-one coaching and group coaching if people feel that they need that.
Because they're going to see you, aren't they?
They are.
So they see you. I think that's a really, really important distinction
we do too.
as to whether you've got a community or people reading, if you like, a magazine where they get to see you, and I say only you, but they get to see you guys personally. But you're not looking at creating a community, because I found out, God, that is such hard work.
Creating a community.
Creating a community and keeping that community fluid is really, actually from scratch and making a decision. I've sort of created one organically without actually meaning to. But that's sort of okay. But, the thought of going, okay, here's a community, I'm going to set up a forum, I'm going to do this, and everybody's going to engage, and this is how I'm going to make that happen, is actually really hard work, isn't it?
But it's also something that not everybody wants. Some people do want daily affirmations. They want to be able to do things in their own time. They want the
with
challenge,
themselves.
but yes, they don't need to have that verification or even justification for others. This is about them improving their well-being. It's about them improving and learning how that they can live their best life and how they can reach their full potential.
And one of the things I like about that, sort of thinking about it now, is that actually it doesn't have the input from anybody else, does it? Because sometimes I think that's what happens when you are part of a community, or community sort of builds up or is created, is that you've got some information coming towards you and you make that relevant for yourself and you apply it to yourself. And then somebody else from the community comes in, asks us questions, says something. They may be negative about it, they may be positive about it. And suddenly it's not about you and what you thought and how you reacted to the information that you were receiving. Now you're taking on the opinions, the viewpoints and the biases of everybody else.
Absolutely. Which again comes with that no judgment, no justification.
Yeah. But you just don't it's just not there, is it? So you're getting the information, you're processing it in your own brain and how it relates to you. Yeah. I really like that, actually, that you made that distinction. And
in your own time, because that's the beauty, isn't it? You haven't got to do 2 o'clock on a Tuesday. No. If you work nights, if you work shifts, if you like, you can do it in your own time.
And you haven't got notifications necessarily coming in from other people in the community interrupting what you're doing, or you're feeling like you're obliged to say something, or somebody may be going, hey, I'm really in trouble, and you think, oh god, what am I better help. Not that we're not helpful, obviously, but there are times when you just don't need that that you're on your own journey.
Absolutely. It is everybody's personal journey, and that we both love the fact that there is a progress tracker, and that they can, once you're on your journey, when you've completed one challenge or the monthly challenge, you have it's not a badge, but if you imagine,
I want a badge.
I thought you might.
I want a badge.
I thought you might.
We're never too old for a sticker.
No.
I know, right?
I want a big smiley face sticker.
Well, that's why our logo, if you like, is that sundial. Because of that, and that's what the tracker almost is, the full sun. So
people love a tracker. That's brilliant, actually. I think that's brilliant because it's the sort of thing that very often gets forgotten about. I just want to ask you very quickly about getting the app onto the App Store and Google Play. Oh, you're smiling. Jemma, pick her up off the floor. Very, very, very quickly, I'm guessing from your reaction that was a little bit of a challenge.
We're still not there yet.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's on its way.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's something else that people very often do need to be aware of, that is you're creating a lovely app. Ideally, you want it to be available, people to find it easily when they're searching, and that is a process that you need to go through. It's a third-party process. Yep. You have to play by those rules, and there's nothing you can do about it. If you want to play in their park, you have to play by their rules. Okay.
Absolutely, and the testing stage. Some people, we're very happy to test it so that we make sure that the product that we put out is good quality and works. So that's really important too. If you're going to put out something, make sure that it does its job.
Thank you so much for running us through that. I think it's such an important thing, because creating an app is something I think a lot of people want to do, but they don't necessarily sort of think it through or think about all of the implications. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. What we want to do now is we want to have a little bit of a quick fire round, which we do so like to do. So, Jemma, I'm going to include you in this one, I think. So we're going to go very, very quickly. So, what have you learnt this week?
Oh, you just can't plan. Do you know what? So we're always super busy, as you know. Well, you might not know, but we're always super busy.
I think I've worked that out.
Yeah. This week, we have not been super busy, which ordinarily would be great. But then when you have work experience, you want them to see all the things you're doing. Anyway, that's just life. That's what I've learned.
What have you learnt this week, Amanda?
That things happen unexpectedly, and to go with the flow. And, I say to my clients, be like water. Bruce Lee, famous quote was, be like water. And basically what he means is go with the flow.
Go with the flow.
I like that one.
I just think I like
that. I think I'll steal that.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, actually.
That's both of us stolen that now. What are you reading or listening to this week?
I read Get Your Money Right by Emmanuel somebody. It was quite a good book about financial literacy and stuff.
Oh, okay. Get Your Money Right by Manuel somebody or other. I'm sure he's thrilled with that.
Yeah, if you're listening.
Yeah. Amanda, what are you reading this week?
I've got about 4 or 5 books on the go.
Pick one. You could be reading or listening. Aha.
Sound Like Crazy by Sabri Subi. It's really interesting book. He talks about marketing. he is a marketing guru, but also it says how to get as many clients, customers and sales as you can possibly handle. And I don't know, but I read lots of books and have done many courses, and as a independent businesswoman, you do all of those.
A lot of stuff.
And when I picked this one up, somebody said, another one? But you never know, one golden nugget.
I absolutely. You can just pick out one thing.
Absolutely.
And take it away.
Yeah.
And it's worthwhile. So top tool, that's not a person. That's please avoid that sort of thing. So your top tool, technique or productivity tip. So Jemma, have you got one?
Oh, goodness. It's not like I've been on the show before, is it? My top tool this week, what have we used this week? Actually, it's just a spreadsheet, actually.
Funny issue, but yeah, I tell you what, we tend to sometimes forget those with all of the software solutions that we've got at the moment. Sometimes the best thing you can actually do is put it on a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amanda.
Lorraine's face. Sorry, she's like, really?
Pen and paper.
Yeah,
we're go back to basics.
We'll be doing you later. We'll be doing you in the next show. Amanda, have you got a top tool, technique or productivity tip?
Do you know what? I think the best productivity tip that I could give is don't sit at your desk for 5 hours. Take a break. Because taking that break, it may only be a 5-minute, but when you're involved in something that you could quite happily and passionately sit at your desk and create, you're not actually doing your body or your mind any good. And our minds can really only take up to 45 minutes at a time. So we should be either setting ourselves a 45-minute alarm or at least an hour, and then getting up, walking around, taking a drink, doing something consciously to improve your mind, everything. It's just such a good way of being more productive.
So take a regular break.
Yeah.
And get moving.
And set an alarm and get moving.
Absolutely.
Okay, shall we do the what's your biggest failure? I do like this because I like to see the reactions I get. Have you got a big failure?
So many. What's my biggest one? I don't know, you might have to go to Amanda and come back.
Okay, well, first of all, I'll say language.
Yeah.
So many. So when we talk about failure, nothing is a failure.
You see, that's why I asked that. That's why I asked that question, to see who says nothing is a failure.
Because I really believe that. They're all learning. Everything that we do is a learning curve. If you can't learn from something, you're not growing.
Is there a goal that you've set that you didn't hit? Is there something that you wanted to achieve that didn't happen?
Lots of things.
What's the biggest?
What's the biggest? Do you know, I think talking about, I know that we can learn from our things that don't work out well for us, but if we dwell on them, then we're creating that energy that then keeps us stuck in that energy.
Okay, so shall we move to the one that counteracts that, which is, what's your gift?
My gift is...
What's your special gift?
Being able to talk to people from all aspects of life. I think it's a very underestimated gift, but being able to talk well to people and understand people.
I think that's a really great gift.
And what's your gift, Amanda? What's the one thing you can do that nobody else can?
Well, I don't know if nobody else can, but the one gift that I am happy to say that I do is I help people to actually understand what's going on in their head. So, in a sense of, if you're talking something out, it's easier to be with somebody who creates a safe space and allows you to be absolutely you, with no masking, no barriers or justification. And I love that gift. I love it.
Yes, I think everybody has a special gift, and it's what they do, and that one's really special. So yes, being able to create a safe space that people can open up.
What's yours, Sian, besides lie detecting?
Nobody ever really asks me that one. Okay. Okay. I have two, actually. I have two. One of them is thinking on my feet. So it's just doing the radio show, doing events and being able to react. And the other one is really, really weird, actually. And I've never really shared this, but here we go. I know what's going on in people's heads. I get words. I have words that will trigger them. I know what that word is. That tends to be holding them back. I think it's NLP, basically. I think it's me using my NLP stuff. So when I'm working with a client and they're talking, I will know what is happening by one word.
So my gift is enabling you to do that in this space. If you've never done that before, now you have.
So, thank you for asking that, Jemma.
You're welcome.
That's an interesting one. Right, okay, moving swiftly on from me. Amanda, how can people get hold of you?
My email address is hello@consciousliving.app. I'll spell conscious, CONSCIOUS, living, LIVING.app, APP. Our website is consciousliving.app. And shall I give my phone number?
It's entirely up to you, however you want people to contact you.
I'm happy for people to text or WhatsApp or call 0781 777 1736.
We haven't finished yet, by the way. So, what is your top tip for the business that you're in? So, be that coaching, working with people. What's your top tip for that?
What do you mean, top tip for that?
Well, if you were talking to, say, another coach, and you said, okay, here's my top tip for being a coach, for being a conscious coach, or working with people. What's your top tip in the area that you specialise in?
That's interesting, because we actually are that one of the plans for future is helping people to become conscious living coaches. So that would be an interesting one. I think the most important is allowing people to be in a space where they are able to say how they feel with no judgment, and to listen and reflect back, because sometimes that reflecting back is the most important thing anybody can ever give anybody.
When you say reflecting back, what do you mean?
Okay, so if we're having a conversation like you would with general day-to-day.
So say you were coaching me.
If I was coaching you, rather than just having a conversation with you, I'd be repeating back your words.
Ah, okay.
Because when we hear our words back, particularly when we're not self-aware, it can be quite an eye-opener and quite enlightening and sometimes empowering to be able to have that person understand that that's where they're at the moment, and there are ways that they can do going forward to help them. My other one is keep it simple. It doesn't have to be difficult.
Okay, and you're not finished yet. You're not off the hook yet. So just what do you know now that you wish you'd have known when you started out?
Oh, I like that. To listen to my intuition. I trust my own power, my own intuition now, and not listen so much, not think that everybody else knew better than me.
Oh, okay. That's quite a biggie, isn't it?
It is huge. Because when you start out, there is that element of... I just did a talk on imposter syndrome on Sunday, and it is that element of being in a space which is really about self-worth. But there is also an element of feeling that everybody else knows better than you. Everybody else has more knowledge, has more experience. Not true.
How long did it take you to get to get to that point? Because I think that's almost sort of part of being unconscious, isn't it? Is that you start your business up and you're listening to everything, all these people who know better than you do about how to run a business, and you're listening to it. How far in, if you can actually put a time on it, how far in were you when you suddenly thought, actually, do you know, I think this is all rubbish and none of it relates to me. I don't think they're right. They may have been doing it longer. That doesn't mean they know better. And maybe time to start listening to myself.
It's a hard one because I think it is a dawning.
It's a process.
It's a process.
Yeah, okay.
You sort of go through different aspects of your business and learning and personal development too, my own growth.
I think it took me about 3 years, actually, just thinking about it, to get to that stage where I was like, actually, nah.
I'm not sure how long it took me, to be honest. I think because I came from corporate, it might have taken me a little bit longer, because there's this sort of structure of competence in corporate, which you sort of accept it's an illusion. Just because you're further up the tree does not mean that you're actually any better. But yeah, when you actually start tapping into your own gut instinct, and realising that you actually probably know more than you think, yes, it can be a really, really powerful thing. Right, okay, Amanda, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much about sharing your process of developing an app, especially sort of coming at it from not a techie angle. I think that's absolutely critical. And we look forward to having you and Kathy at the Women in Business Big Show. And it'll be great to get Kathy, both of you, into the studio, and we're going to be talking a little bit more then about, I suppose, about conscious living and taking it on to the next step and seeing if we can sort of get information out there about how that may work. So, Lorraine, you have been in the studio. You didn't get a word in edgeways. However, we are going to be hearing a lot more from you in a later show. Jemma, thank you so much for being my lovely co-host in the show. I have now forgotten what buttons I need to press, obviously. But we are going to see you all very, very shortly.
Tune in next week to the Women in Business radio show for more stories, ideas and inspiration to help you grow your business.